So that's been a lot of fun to list this week, fucking with all this. So
One thing after another. Never a dull moment.
well, and again, when you had the initial, in the initial problem, threat, whatever, and then they track it down, which is great. But then you get all these copycats now.
Did they track it?
Yeah.
They know where it came from?
Yeah, it came from out of the country.
That's what I heard.
The first one, yes. Yeah, they sent out a thing. They told us. We talked about it at school board last night. They talked about it again today. But then, and they don't know if these next two are related. They don't think so. They don't know if they're that or they're copycats.
Yeah.
Or, and then the county school, happened in the county schools today. It happened in Hannibal. And it's just like, knock it off.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
What a waste of resources.
It is.
It's
and
really
it just,
unfortunate.
And it does nothing but cause confusion and angst for everybody. And again, the school district is in a no-win situation because they can't say anything because they don't know anything. And if you don't know anything, there's this vacuum, and all the noise on social media then fills the vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to come out in a timely fashion every so often and give updates to us, ideally. I know they were using the Skyward system to call parents and teachers and stuff. But let us know and rely on us to do that. And they did today when we had the news conference. We went on. I did a little Facebook Live thing and using some of our new toys and stuff, and it was really well received and it was great, except for the mic getting accidentally shut off. But aside from that, it was fine. But again, I think that's the way. And then to write the follow-up story and then to send it out there and say, hey, this is what happened. And again, I think they just need to keep people updated on a regular basis. I mean, if you go back to when we had all the COVID crap going on and city officials and county officials and everybody had daily news conferences or whatever to talk about things and update things, that was very handy. And I'm not saying this is of that level, but I'm saying they need to really be more proactive to say, hey, this is what we know and this is what we don't know.
The only thing that kills speculation is transparency, and even if you don't have all the answers, I think parents should be in the know that there is something happening so they can make a decision that's right for them and their kids. I do think that social media has screwed all of this, and when you said copycats, I mean, everything, and this is my opinion only, of course, but when we gave so much publicity and, to the school shooters, of course it creates copycats, right? Because it's like, I don't know, it just makes everybody
almost like a name notoriety, and it kind of stopped doing that. If you don't, like, if you recall, I think like in the latest school shootings, they don't name the shooter so much as
right off the bat. No, they wait.
Well, not only that, but like they kind of leave it out of the story, and they'll call him the shooter even after the fact.
Yeah,
but we eventually get it. But they don't. You're right. They don't do it as much, and especially in this last case with the shooter where it was a minor.
Yeah.
And then the dad got arrested as part of it, so which I'm all for actually. So.
And what you said with like them being more transparent, would that be like in regards to the day one when, I mean, I think we heard a lot of people say, I didn't know anything was happening until that 2 p.m. phone call, except for what we got on the news.
Yeah.
And they got their news through social media too.
And I got mine from my kid, and she didn't know, and kind of what we were talking about earlier, she hears it from somebody who heard it from somebody, and it's the telephone game. So then, of course, my kid was very nervous and uncomfortable being at school because she didn't know what's true. She doesn't know how to distinguish truth from rumor at this point because it's all scary, and you assume that everything you hear could be true if this is the first time you've dealt with something like this.
But if you don't know anything, if the school officials don't know anything yet, they can't say anything if they don't know anything. But that doesn't mean people should get there and say some of the stupid crap they were saying when the school officials didn't know anything. And then when the school officials said stuff and tried to fill in what they could with the gaps, you still had people just saying ridiculous shit out there.
Well, hang on, though, because when you first receive a threat, you have to assume that that is a credible threat.
Absolutely, no question about it.
So when they first received the inkling that this was a threat, whether they knew where it came from, what happened, boom, communication goes out. Yeah. Because you have to take that as a credible threat.
Didn't the Skyward call go out to say they were in
It
secure
was
mode?
like 2 p.m. or something like that.
It wasn't
and
earlier
I'm pretty
than that.
sure we reported it at like 10.
So I don't know. I don't know the exact,
there.
but I'm just saying, when you get something like that comes to you as a school official,
I was getting phone calls and texts, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
So,
but I do want to commend our school administration for doing what they did. I know, like you said, this is it's a lose-lose on their end, because you're not going to please everyone. There are always things that can be done above and beyond what are done. There was also a similar situation that happened in Payson not too long ago,
Right.
prior to this, and it was handled completely different, and parents were very, very upset. So I think
Can we revisit that? What happened?
So, and this is just from my cousin who her child is at school there. They got a threat.
Can you be specific which cousin, since you have 85 of them?
No, because I don't want to throw her name out there. But her kids go there, and they received a threat. Their kids aren't allowed to have phones at school, right? They weren't answering the phones, whether from an influx or whatever. Parents could not get a hold of anyone. They didn't send anything out. They basically waited, and kids and parents were kind of like, what in the world is going on? Now, in a town like Payson, that's unheard of, right? That something like this could happen. I'm not saying it wasn't swatting. It could have been the same situation, that, this is very much a hacked situation that is not super credible, which I hate to even say that because I don't want to discount anything. But it was handled poorly, according to the parents of those students.
Right, and it was, matter of fact, that was one we had never heard of.
Yeah.
People were asking us about it. I'm like, look,
Yeah,
we didn't
I
know
asked
anything
you about
about
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know.
So
haven't
that's
heard.
a bad
at least
idea.
in these cases, like the ones we had in also today, as we record this on Thursday, the ones we had this morning in Mendon and Camp Point, we had those, and the sheriff's department got a hold of us and let us know what was going on. It was greatly appreciated. And again, we've reached out to the school district, and when we have, the first day, yes, they just didn't know, they were trying to sort through things, and the response was slower. But their response the last 2 days has been much faster, as they've tried to grasp, kind of get a grasp on all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Also, incidentally, as we, again, record this on Thursday, and this airs the first thing on Friday, the football game tonight, there will be bag searches.
No bags.
No
bags.
No bags.
No
So
bags,
don't take a bag.
unless you have a medically necessary bag, in which case
Okay.
it will be searched.
Okay.
And
so-
no one 6th grade and under without parental supervision is allowed.
Okay.
So they are implementing things to help circumvent possibilities of something terrible happening. I think probably at this point, because of the day and age that we live in, we have to think about being a little more proactive. Because I know a lot of times, when you hear of school shootings and you hear of terrible things like this happening, the one thing that's missing is proactive measures that, we need to make sure that we're keeping our students safe before the fact. So how do we do that? And a big topic of conversation is the metal detectors that you and I were talking about, that we went through. I forget exactly when they implemented them, but I think it was after the Dylan Klebold.
Brittany has that information, I
Right?
believe.
Well, they started a security division, our public schools did, in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's changed a lot after that, and the program expanded after 1999 in the Columbine shootings.
Mm-hmm.
And with that is where they, started implementing what we went through, which was a metal detector,
Daily
a
searches.
wand,
Mm-hmm.
book bag searches, sock searches.
Mm-hmm.
And what was random was what kind of search it was. Every single one of us went through that. And right now, what was said in the press conference was that everything is random. And I just find, I understand that it takes time to search everyone.
Resources. Uh-huh.
But why did we have time when we went, but now we don't have time now? Also, when we were going to school, these class sizes were, I think, even bigger. We had larger graduating classes, so you had more students at that time. And I feel like we have more administration now than ever.
Yeah.
I don't remember having 5 vice principals, but I know that they have 5 vice principals now. So it's like, why?
And security officers at each school.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went, we had, I think, like 1 security officer, and the teachers did that as like a daily morning duty. Why not have, your 5 vice principals doing this as the daily morning duty of the book bag searches, the wands, or whatever? And again, not random. Everyone does it.
Yeah.
In 2006 is when they implemented metal detectors, like the actual metal detectors in the elementary schools.
Yeah.
They were updated in 2015, and that was before the 5 schools. So they used the same ones, and they moved those to the 5 new schools.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a big thing when we put that in elementary schools. That was kind of scary. But that happened. It was like a second expansion, like I said, in 2006 after an Amish schoolhouse in Pennsylvania, Meyer. I guess that happened, and that's what that started the elementary.
So Denman does have a metal detector that you walk through, but sometimes you may walk through it, sometimes you don't, especially if it's like a curriculum night or something and they have an influx of parents. They kind of circumvent some of that.
I've experienced that at another
So
school.
it's
And I'm
kind
wondering,
of-
though, if those are the same metal detectors from 2015, because I couldn't find anything else about, an updated system. Yet
Yeah.
they talked about it in 2015.
Yeah.
So are our metal detectors outdated, and that's why we're not using them?
I don't. So here's my question to that. Does it matter? Nothing else matters above and beyond my child's safety. When I go to an airport, and one of my friends posted this on social media, you have to walk through a metal detector. Every single person has to go through it. I don't like the feeling of that for my kids, but if it means their safety, I'll take it. I don't like the feeling of, oh gosh, yeah, we had to go through the blah blah blah. I don't like the overall, I don't like the overall feeling. But nothing else matters but the safety of my children when they go to our public school system. I want to know that they're safe. If we have to update our systems, we should probably look into how much that's going to cost. And with all of the automation in the world, you'd think there has to be a better way to automate some of that so that you don't have to have so many resources. So if we're willing to spend the money, which we should, to protect our kids, let's spend some money. And if we need to figure out a way to make it faster, I'm sure there's a way. There has to be something. With the world of automation, there has to be a better way. So if it's time and lack of people power, we can probably get around that somehow. So this just creates a whole new conversation, which it's terrible that it has to be had, but now that it's here, let's talk about it.
Well, and again, like Brittany said, they have plenty of administrators now that they can farm this stuff out. They should all be able to take their share of the burden and go ahead and make sure that, check the bags and do all the stuff that needs to be done. There's no question about that. And again, we all have this in common because we all have kids and or spouses who are in the school system. So we all have a vested interest. Everybody in this town has a vested interest regardless, but especially us. So again, and again, in talking to my wife and some of the other teachers, it's annoying, but it's also very stressful because they don't know, and they're sitting in their classrooms and they don't know. They're not being told. I talked to another teacher at another building, and he was getting pretty regular updates from his principal, and he was very, very thankful for that. And I think that's the key. I think it's like if the principals in the buildings keep each teacher, because their teachers are just trying to, again, they keep saying we want to have a normal day, so they just keep trying to teach class. And if it's on the onus of the principals then to update the teachers and say, hey, this is what we know, and this is all we know, and leave it at that. And again, when they have the questions. When people have the questions, the school district is going to get inundated with phone calls, and they're not going to be able to handle the load of the phone calls. So do you call the cops? And that's what they talked about today at the news conference. It was like, call the police. If you have any questions, they can help you out because they're working hand in hand with them. And you've got all these QPS security guys now, most of whom are retired QPD guys. They're all good guys. They all know what the heck they're doing. So go through QPD if you're not getting the answer. Your last resort should be, I go on Facebook and I say, oh my God, I heard somebody had a bag full of guns at the school, because it's not happening.
Yeah, don't perpetuate
Don't do
something
that
until you know. But I do think that this does bring up another good point, because unfortunately, there is it's bound to happen that there's an emergency, whether it's weather related, whether it's something. So if you don't have a phone system that's capable of, answering those calls for questions as a school system, we got to do something with that too, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying that I know the answer to that, but if your systems can't support the amount of students that you have or parents that need answers, then we got to do something about that.
But I mean, okay, if you're getting 100 phone calls, you can't have 100 people answering the phone.
an automated system.
You got to have something. You would have a message, right? You can record an outgoing message to let people know
Have
when they
that
call.
message ready for the parents.
Right.
Also have a message ready for the teachers. Like you said, they
Right.
are the face of this, and
The front line.
Yeah, and they're human beings, so they have to be scared themselves. I know
Right.
not every teacher knew what to say. I heard just recently, it was a younger kid that they didn't understand why everyone. It was actually at the junior high, and so no phones implemented, and they didn't understand why everyone was leaving one by one. So they asked their teacher, what's going on? Why is everyone leaving? And she responded to mind his own business.
Yeah, that's
And
not cool.
It is his business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think she knew the response of what to
Right.
say.
Well, and
You're
that's-
not wanting to stir it up and say it yourself as the teacher.
So were teachers informed immediately? Do you know?
It depends on the school.
Okay.
I
So
think they got a
I think maybe
email,
this.
right?
I know they have protocols in place, but maybe we need to look at those again to make sure that with the changing of the times, the changing of technology, that those protocols are still relevant and that they are efficient in communicating outwardly as well as receiving communications. Because when you have the no phone policy, which I think senior high is a little more lax on that, thank goodness, because my daughter was
Yeah, they
the
don't,
one.
no.
Okay.
It's the junior high and below is where it's.
No,
Yeah.
they have a no phone policy at
Quincy High does?
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
yes, they do.
I think
Okay.
they went lax
They
on
went
it
lax
with
on
this,
it with this.
as
But
they
okay.
did.
if they
I think
didn't,
Quincy
if my
Junior
child
High.
wasn't allowed to have her phone and I couldn't get a hold of anyone, but I was hearing this on the news, that would freak me the hell out. So we have to align everything so that it makes sense that we're doing things the best way possible. And I'm not saying that it wasn't done the best way possible, because like I said, I think our administration did everything that they could, and they continue to do it. And with the press conference, and there are still going to be parents and people who have issues with how things were handled, but I think what they did was the best they could with the information they had at hand. But I think now that we know that things like this are
going to
potential,
occur, probably.
there's the potential for it. We could probably sit down and say, here's how we could handle things better. Here's what we should implement. What can we do with current resources, and what should we do as kind of a wish list to make sure that this is handled better in the future.
No question about
Yeah.
it. So let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
All right, and we're back, and just want to wrap up the discussion. A couple more things on this. Again, it's just some of the social media nonsense that was out there, and it's just like, again, we can't get away from it. We get it in every facet of every conversation we have, and it's whether you're uninformed or you just want to put your own misinformation out there or things like that. So I
think David brought up a good point that, again, this brings up it's an opportunity for improvement, especially in public schools, especially in like high schools. You have, communication courses. Let's teach efficient communication to avoid some of the perpetuation of bullshit on social media and the dangers of it. And I think that, Nora Baldner teaches social media and the ups, the downs, the uglies. This is a really good opportunity to focus in on what could happen by perpetuating some of this stuff. What are the downsides? Why should you not do it? What can you do better? There is definitely potential there.
Oh,
there's
no
an
doubt
opportunity.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the things that I saw on social media outside of the event itself and was ideas that, well, this would never happen in a Catholic school or a private school for that matter. And to that I say nay. Because
The occurrences are less,
yes,
for sure.
But smaller school, socioeconomic statuses are different. And then just the rule itself that in a private school, you can be kicked out.
Yeah.
In these public schools, yes, you can be expelled, but for the most part, they want to keep kids in school, no matter what. So that's like a hurdle that's different. Another thing is QND has had their fair share of
Violence.
Yeah, like automated phone calls saying we're on a threat level. According to what I found on the internet, it was KHQA in 2015. The school was on a secure mode. I don't know if that's what they called it then, but for a bomb threat that was written on the bathroom stalls. I remember that. That was huge because I think maybe partially because it was Q&D, but it's like quick how we are like we all are easy to forget that. You know?
Well,
Well,
I think,
and plus to use this to drive any kind of wedge between the two school systems is totally inappropriate.
and I think that you have the right to your opinion that, you know, God in the classroom has helped eliminate some of this or avoid some of this, which could or could not be true. There are no factual, there's no research on it. So to put that out there is kind of like, well, we're better than you maybe, or that this would never happen. That's you better knock on wood, because in my opinion, this is all mental health related, all parental involvement related, all economic stressors. Again, it's like we're using some of this stuff as, well, kind of a distraction. Well, let's take it back to, you know, the brass tacks of it. These situations do happen. It's unfortunate. It doesn't matter where it happens. It doesn't matter in what institution it happens. If it happens, it's tragic. And how do we start to avoid that? So rather than point fingers or put yourself up on a pedestal or put it religious, you know, stake it in religion, or, you know, blame people for how they handle things, let's talk about how do we fix it so that it doesn't happen again. So let's stop. It's almost like we get so distracted in trying to be right or righteous or proving points that we forget about the real importance, and that is the safety of our kids. It is the mental health of our kids. And how do we fix that? I don't think that, you know, of course, metal detectors we don't want those, but if it has to be a symptom of this, let's figure out how to do it properly. Let's do it right. If we can come up with some other measures that help keep our kids safe, perfect. But I still think we need more mental health resources, parental involvement, ways to recognize that there could be an issue if there is a threat like this. I don't even know who brought this to the forefront, but I applaud that person, because that takes guts too. So
yeah, that's a big thing.
That's huge.
Well, what we were talking about before with taking it straight to social media, and you said to go to the police, don't be scared to go to the police.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, we were getting phone calls earlier today about different things, and I'm like, you need to call the non-emergency number and tell them what you
Right.
just
Yeah.
told me.
Right.
There's nothing that we can do, like you
Right.
said, without credible sourcing. But yes, if you see something, say something.
Absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely.
Don't be scared to say something. Just maybe say it to the right person.
Right. Also realize that when you have children in the school system, that yes, while it is the school system's, you know, we want to know that our kids are safe there. It is your right as a parent to go get your child. It is still your right as a parent to not send them to school. So if you do not agree with how things are being handled, don't sit at home bitching about it. Go get your child, make a difference in their life, do the things that you want to do, because it is still your right as a parent. And like the school, you know, the administrator said, it will be excused. So make sure that you're...
How long do you think it'll be excused?
I don't know.
Because what if this just goes on forever? Is that what I was kind of wondering?
Well, hopefully it won't, because hopefully we put some measures in that, yeah.
But like we just said, if every threat we have to treat as a somewhat credible threat,
Yeah, it has to be.
You know
then
what my draconian solution is?
what?
But
Effective Monday, no student will be allowed to have their phone on school premises for 1 week, period. If there are no threats, if there's no bullshit, then you can all have your phones back. But if there is, if one person spoils it, no, you don't get to have your phones again. And then we start the next week, they bring their phones back,
I don't
bullshit
believe
starts
in
again.
punishing
Well, hang on,
one
though.
for all. Ever.
Well, hang on, though.
That's
so what would
insane.
happen if you have a student, so we can't search them all, right, because we don't have the resources.
Right.
Our kids don't have phones, and our school systems can't take that many phone calls. So then we're just kind of at the mercy
Will
of
God?
no, just at the
Will
mercy
school
of
system.
someone.
You have to you're putting a heck of a lot of faith in the school system.
Which
for
I'm
that.
not saying I don't.
I'm of the opinion that kids should not have their phones in school. Period. End
I
of
don't think that
discussion.
it does any good until situations like this arise. I do want to be able to
Yeah,
communicate
I
directly
agree.
with my child. So during a
then-
natural school day where things are,
It's in their locker.
yeah,
It's not in their class. It's in their locker.
It is
Yeah,
in
yeah,
their
it should
locker
be,
now.
yeah.
Again, it
Is
is.
it?
It is.
Is it?
Yes, it's on the. I mean, they have
So if it's
administration.
not-
they
if-
have their 5 administrators walking around the high school, and it's on the teacher if they catch a student on their phone. It's not on the student. It's on the teacher. So trust me, those teachers are implementing it.
Yeah.
Can the teacher then take the phone?
Yes. Absolutely.
But then guess what's going to happen? Mom's calling because she's pissed.
yes.
Well,
and that
mom needs to be a
happens.
better parent.
I mean that's arguable, I think, depending on what the situation is. But there could be a case by case issue for everything.
Sure.
I think that it's worth trial and error. That
You can't punish everyone for one.
Sure you can.
well, I don't
See,
think schools are.
absolutely
I don't think
you
schools
can.
are
That's the wrong
necessary.
way.
Absolutely.
I don't think
No.
phones are necessary in school. I think they're a distraction. I think that in cases like this, it did work to perpetuate something that was already scary enough. It worked against the school administration. I do think that me being able to communicate with my kid was awesome. But do I want her to have a phone every day in school? No.
Same, but again,
no.
one person messes it up.
Hey,
it's on everyone.
Hey,
it's the same thing as like
Fred Smith jumped off sides in the game the other night. Guess what? The entire team's going to run on Monday.
It's different.
It's not different.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
A team. It's a team thing.
We're
That's
trying
sports.
to create a team
Sports,
family. We're trying to create a
I don't think-
family atmosphere.
Okay, but I guess here's the
here.
question: do you think that not having a phone is punishment
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, it is. For
Okay.
these kids, damn right
during
it is.
school? I don't think it's punishment. I think it's like
Yep. If they
It's
have
a
to have them in their
standard.
locker.
I think it's necessary. I think it's great, but no, for them, I think anytime they don't have their phones, they're sitting there.
Well, I'm not talking about. No, it's a punishment to them, like as because they're going to be upset about it. But I don't look at it as if I were to say, Claire, you cannot take your phone to school. I don't think that's a punishment. I think it's a measure.
What would she say?
She's going to hate my guts, but that's okay. I'm her
Yeah,
mom.
that's
She
a
hates me anyway.
punishment.
I don't care. No, I'm talking about if you take
A
all the
punishment.
phones from everybody so that they can go to school and learn. I don't
That's
think
a great thing.
A
It's the way
punishment
we
should be
do.
meant
It's the way we
to
should do.
correct a behavior. You cannot
wouldn't?
correct like if Mela has a substitute teacher and the regular teacher says, if I hear anything from anyone, you're all going to have blah blah blah.
Yep.
She can't control.
Drop the
She
hammer.
can't control her peers. That's
no,
outlandish.
you can't control it, but I do think so. Let's get back to what you said. Let's try to take the phones away for a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See what happens.
I'm okay with that. But not until you have a system in place that can handle my phone call if something
David
happens.
wants to kick their parents off Facebook. I think that's more draconian.
I mean, that's
And plus, that's a whole other.
freedom of speech. Blah 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 blah
Again,
blah. blah,
everyone's
blah, blah,
going to
blah.
say when you
Censorship.
say with your
Censorship.
It's
thing,
censorship, but not freedom of
Censorship,
speech.
yeah.
It's censorship. It's two different things.
they already
Both
have that implemented, so you're not supposed
they?
to have your phone in
they?
school.
Okay.
So I wonder do they still do assemblies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean,
Maybe
Pep-
they need to
they
do
do
an
a pep
assembly
assembly.
on
Pep
like
rally tonight.
they need to do an assembly on what happened here. Like inform the students because students, especially in the high school age, are capable of understanding if you're honest with them, and I do believe in that. Be upfront with the kids because if you're upfront with them, it will eliminate again some of the made up, the narratives that they come up with. Because yes, I appreciate that you're communicating with me, but I wonder how many people were upfront with these kids because that's who was primarily perpetuating this because they would go home and tell their parents, "Oh, I heard this." Well, then the parents are like, "Oh, well, that's got to be true."
So I want to wrap up on this. So
Sorry,
the
talk about it all day.
original issue came from overseas, and somebody's Snapchat got hacked, and it said, "Yo, I'm gonna."
So they say, though.
though.
because couldn't they bounce back IP addresses?
The FBI was involved, so I'm hoping they know what they were doing.
I hope so too.
I'm just saying though. So and so that's that. But then the next day, a little snot-nosed punk goes, "I'm a man, blow up school." Whatever. What should happen to that kid?
You should be locked
Well, I can
up.
tell you what happened. So when I was in high school, we went to homecoming and there was a bomb threat, and we had to shuffle out of senior high. I may or may not have been under the influence of something,
Stop.
but we had to shuffle out of the high school and walk over to Baldwin. We all had to take,
buggy.
huh?
Getting your horse and buggy.
Yeah, we all had to take our high heels off because you couldn't, of course, walk on the Blue Devil gym floor with your
God,
heels.
no. God, no.
So it was scary at first, and then it was kind of like, oh, this is kind of fun. Now we're at, we're at the Blue Devil Gym, blah, 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 blah. But the guy who called that in spent significant amount of time in prison, and I think just got out recently.
Considering you're high AF back then, I'm surprised I'm glad you remembered that.
I remember everything from back then. Now, yesterday, that's a different story. But it was a very serious offense, and I think it should be treated as such. And I think the more that, two things. Keep it off of social media. Don't talk about it until you know the things. Don't put their name out there because it gives them, stardom or whatever the hell it is. But throw the book at them and then use that to promote. Mm-hmm. Here's what happens, guys. It's a funny prank until you're sitting in prison for
you make
15, 20 years.
The example out of the person that did wrong, not the entire school.
That's true.
Or community.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it has happened before,
and
that
then
person
the rest
was
of that class will take it up with him and then beat that kid's ass.
As they should.
Absolutely.
I mean, sure.
As they should.
Yeah.
Listen, if somebody made me lose something very significant to me, that person should be prepared to get their ass handed to them, either by me or someone who's bigger than me, close to me.
I'm going to wrap on a happy note and say, as this airs tonight, as today, my beautiful bride and I will be at Busch Stadium listening to Billy Joel and sing.
Billy Joel.
So
that's awesome. Also, of course,
I said, "Son, can you play me a memory?"
Oh,
that was pretty good. Well, we know who's going to be singing.
We didn't start the fire with this.
Right?
It's on my shirt.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But there's also a homecoming game, homecoming dance. Let's do our best to be responsible, be adult-ish, right? Be respectful, be kind. This is one thing I told Claire. I don't know if this is true or not. It leans towards not true. But let this be a lesson in be kind to everyone. Right?
Be kind to everyone's not true.
You should.
Yes, you
no,
should.
that's why I said let this be a lesson to be kind to everyone, because then you won't end up on some proverbial hit list.
QU homecoming as well, so you two have double homecomings this weekend.
Yeah.
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 Oh my gosh. Woo.
All right.
Anyway.
Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.